2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on the Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org.
This is KBCC 89.5 FM, Tracy, California, Peace and Justice Network of San Joaquin.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS The Voice of Stockton or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another amazing episode of The Phone Booth here on KBCC, the Voice of San Joaquin. I'm still getting used to that, but we will eventually get used to it. My name is Edward Heitman, and joining me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Brian Rodriguez.
Hello.
How you doing today, man?
Pretty good.
Also joining us today is a reoccurring guest appearing in our previous episode of The Phone Booth. Please welcome my little brother, Lucas Heitman.
Hello.
How you doing today, man?
Good.
Good to hear, good to hear. Now, in case you're a first-time watcher of the show, as always, The Phone Booth is a show completely dedicated to the world of pop culture. Anything from movies to video games to TV shows to comic books, you name it, and we do our very best to cover it. Now, we have an interesting little discussion piece going on later today, talking about the strategy of Epic Games since the launch of its website. But for now, we're going to go through our weekly recap, where we talk about some of the things that have happened within the week, and just give our general input on it. Now, of course, before we get started, I would like to apologize for the our brief little absence. We haven't been able to get the show rolling for the past 2 weeks, but we are happy to be back on the air for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Definitely.
Now, should you start or should I?
You start.
Okay. Now, according to producer Peter Safran, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad will be a full reboot, not a sequel. This is in contrast to reports that the film would be a sequel to the 2016 Oscar-winning film. Though, we need to emphasize this, we don't know, necessarily.
Yeah, right now, the reports are, these anonymous sources that say, oh, it will be, a soft reboot, pseudo-sequel. I'm going to listen to the producer of the film who's saying, oh, it's a full reboot. Because, they're the producer of the film. There are a lot of sites trying to spin this as, oh, we don't know. Oh, it could still be just a soft reboot. When the person in charge of the movie currently is saying what it is, I'm going to listen to them. Because they're the person in charge.
It only makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's been a lot of speculation going on around Suicide Squad, the new one coming out. Now, in case you didn't hear about it, Lucas, James Gunn was the guy who made the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
And is still going to make them.
Yeah, he recently got reinstated as director.
Mm-hmm.
After he got laid off for working on Volume 3 after some controversy on Twitter, he was brought in to work on Suicide Squad. And there were a lot of rumors going around here. At first, we thought there was going to be a sequel. And then it was supposed to be I think people said it was going to be a prequel. And then it was supposed to be a reboot. And then it's not only that, but there's also been a lot of speculation around who's going to be starring in it too.
Okay, all we know about the casting, just to get that out of the way before we talk about it, is that Will Smith will not be in it. We have confirmation that Will Smith will not be in it. Mm-hmm. Now, to get to the theory crafting, it's been rumored that Idris Elba will be replacing Will Smith as Deadshot, which would be awesome.
It would be epic.
And right now, we don't know if Margot Robbie's going to be in the film, because Forbes published a report saying that she would not be in it, but later updated it, saying that information was outdated and that she may in fact be in the film, but we don't know right now.
I really hope that she is, because Margot Robbie did a really good job as Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad.
She was really the best part of the movie.
Really the best part. She should have had way more lines than she was given. I'm excited for her to be in Birds of Prey. I'm still waiting for a full-on trailer to that movie. But yeah, for now, that's all the news that we can really give regarding the Suicide Squad. But we are on a close watch, trying to get any details at all regarding this movie, because it's kind of up in smoke.
Yep.
Anyways, Brian, I'm going to let you take this next little bit, where we're going to talk about a conference that had recently happened within the week.
Yes, GDC, the Game Developers Conference. A conference I'd argue is as big as E3, but it's the E3 no one really pays attention to. Now, the Game Developers Conference isn't really about announcing games to the public. It's about developers getting together and discussing, the sort of nitty-gritty of the games industry. It's where you get talks about certain, how certain lighting technology in games and the experiences that these big developers had making this game. But we also get some announcements from it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, we got the announcement that Cuphead, the indie darling that was exclusive to the Xbox, is now coming to the Switch with Xbox Live support.
Such a good game. Very complicated to play, but a good game nonetheless.
Yes, I've heard it's very hard. And this is another step in the sort of Nintendo-Microsoft, not exactly merger, because it's not quite that deep.
Like
but
a partnership, really.
Yeah, partnership, friendship. They are getting much closer, and I love it. Cooperation between companies.
It makes sense, seeing as so many years all the companies have been in a constant war with each other. It's only a matter of time until there's sort of like a peace meeting,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially since, PlayStation became the popular bad guy of this generation, despite being the outright winner in the console wars, I'd say.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We also got some news from the Epic Games Store in that Outer Worlds, Obsidian Entertainment's new space RPG from the creators of the original Fallout games, will be an exclusive to them. Control Remedy, the developer of Alan Wake and Quantum Dreams, that game will be exclusive to the... Did I say Quantum Dreams?
Yeah, you said Quantum, but we mean Quantic Dreams.
No, actually I meant Quantum Break, which is their game, and Quantic Dreams' games, the French developer behind Detroit Become Human, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, their games, which were previously exclusive to the PlayStation, will be coming exclusively to Epic Games Store on PC. There are so many similar words. My brain is bad. I'm going to hope I got through all that without screwing it up again.
This time you got it correct.
Okay, thank you. This is why I need you.
Yeah. A-okay.
Okay. Google, in probably the biggest announcement of the conference, unleashed the Google Stadia.
Their new game idea.
Yeah, their new game streaming service. The idea is that you will be able to stream a game to any Google-equipped device, as long as you have, strong enough internet, with almost no latency or lag. It is not a console. People keep saying it's a console. It is not a console. It is specifically not a console. It is a streaming service. It's supposed to be like Netflix is now, which I have issues with this Stadia. I think it's a good idea, and I think it's something that should be tested, and I think Google could do it right. But I don't want it to be the future of gaming. People keep positioning it like, oh, it's going to be the Netflix of gaming, which makes you want to stream something that the game industry really needs to get through its head, in that games are not movies. They are a different medium. They are experienced differently. They must act differently. Netflix is fine. You can argue about its pros and cons, because a movie is always a movie. You're going to start it. You're going to stop it. You're going to get the exact same experience of watching it every time. Okay, maybe there will be a deleted scene here or there. Maybe there will be, a little bit of editing, but it will be exactly the same thing, the same experience, basically, every time. A game is not like that. A game is inherently built around the user. Not built for the user, it's built around the user. The user can play it however they like. They can mod it. Modding is a big concern here, because a mod requires you to have physical access to the game to be able to modify it.
And if you're streaming it, it's not that possible.
True.
Yeah. It's one of the big issues with Minecraft right now is there are two versions. The Bedrock Edition, which is the one that's playable across Xbox and PC and Switch, so you could all play together. And there's the Java Edition, which is the original Minecraft that's moddable, because it was built on open software.
Yeah.
The Stadia, it's going to be a good experiment, and I think it could lead to great things for the industry. But I don't want it to be the future of the industry.
Makes sense. Now, what else came out at GDC?
One of the funniest things I've ever seen announced was Cadence of Hyrule, which is a Legend of Zelda-themed expansion for the dance dungeon crawler Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Wait, did you say dance dungeon crawler?
Yes, it is a dungeon crawling game that you play with like a DDR pad.
You play Dance Dance Revolution and...
Yeah, it's a Dance Dance Revolution, the dungeon crawler, essentially. Crypt of the Necrodancer. And it's one of the funniest games I've ever seen.
I want to play this!
Yeah, and it is getting a full-on licensed Nintendo Legend of Zelda themed expansion called Cadence of Hyrule.
I used to play Dance Dance Revolution.
Yeah, we used to play that very often. We used to have DDRX over at our house.
I-
think they do a dungeon crawler based on that.
I
Yeah.
played that way too much. I'm like, I
Man.
just dancing to it.
Okay.
And one last very surprising announcement. I honestly could not have predicted this. Was the announcement of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
Oh,
It's
God.
finally getting a sequel. The cult classic RPG that it was based off the the White Wolf universe, I believe, is finally getting a sequel. The first one, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, is insanely popular, but when it first came out, it made no money, basically, which eventually led to the shutdown of the studio. I believe it was Troika. Troika Games. But now it's getting a sequel from Paradox Interactive. It has the same narrative lead as the original game. It's currently up for pre-order, though I will stress that I do not think pre-orders are a good thing, especially for a game like this where it's... Whenever they try to do this type of thing, where they revive something this old and this beloved, it usually doesn't end that well, so I'd advise waiting. Wait till it's out, wait till there are reviews. They're going to promise, a bunch of items. They've shown no in-game footage yet, as far as I know. They've shown pre-rendered trailers, and they haven't actually said what the bonus items you're pre-ordering are, just that if you pre-order, you get bonus items when the game comes out. We don't have a release date. All we have is a pre-rendered trailer, and that is a little concerning.
Now, for some of the people out there who might not have heard of it, would you mind explaining a little bit about the core mechanics of Vampire the Franchise? It was an active role-playing game, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a deep role-playing game, as I called them, in the vein of Deus Ex, in which you could basically do anything in the game. You could approach a situation from any angle. It's the type of gameplay we've been seeing. We don't really see anywhere in the industry, but we have sort of seen from the gameplay for CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077, in which you can go into a room, you can talk to a person, you can instigate a fight with a person, you can sneak around that person, there's magic in it, because vampires, you could try to enthrall that person. It was a deep gameplay system for a deep RPG that we just don't see anymore, and I'm...
Well, I kind of have to beg to differ. It seems like we seem to be growing up into that age where all these deep role-playing games are suddenly being resurrected. We have Cyberpunk 2077. It's coming out, very interactive. We recently got Call of Cthulhu that came out, which was also a very interactive game where you could choose the way your detective skills work. So it's I'm not really as surprised that Vampire came out, because we kind of need more games like that.
We are seeing a comeback, but for a long time now, we've had a very limited way we can interact with games. On one end of the spectrum, there's things like Deus Ex and Vampire the Masquerade, where you could go in and do anything. And then on the other hand, there's Call of Duty, where there is one way you can interact with the game, and that is shoot the person.
Well, then there's also in-betweeners, though.
Well, yes.
I mean, Fallout is a great example of that. You can choose how the story goes, but only to some extent.
Well, yeah, I was two ends of the spectrum.
Okay.
And of course, in between, closer to the Vampire the Masquerade Deus Ex side, is Fallout. But even in Fallout, it is a more limited way you can interact with the world.
That's true.
Especially as the games have gone on and they've gone a bit more into the combat than the RPG elements.
Like
Yeah.
Fallout 4, like that.
Yeah, Fallout 4 has gone a bit more combat heavy than Fallout 3, or especially the original two Fallouts.
Yeah, Fallout 4, they did extend the choices you made, but it wasn't so much like it changed the world. It was just more like you were able to do more dialogue.
Yeah, it
you
was
had a lot more choices to say.
They took out the karma system, they took out more of the RPG elements, they did a really annoying thing where unless you have a mod installed, it's basically your choices and dialogue aren't actually what you'll say, they're a approximation. Like you can choose
Sums it up.
Yeah, you can choose sarcasm and your character will say a snarky line, but you don't know what they're going to say, which is always bad for a role-playing game.
When you don't know what you're going to say.
Yeah, it's more of a role-guessing game than a role-playing game.
Right.
Because there's weird locations in that game.
Oh, yeah. It's a great
I
game.
encountered a robot, and it was like, will you comply? And your character gets the option to just keep saying that, and the robot overheats and blows up right in front of you.
Yeah, it has its moments.
Yeah, it's a fun game. It's just, and that's about it for the big GDC announcements. Now, of course, if you are really into game development, kind of like I am, I'd encourage you to go look at the summaries of some of the panels, because they do get granular. How ray line tracing is affecting gaming now is, I barely understand what that means. So, yeah. But I think if you like to know how the sausage is made, like I do, you should go check it out.
All in all, it sounds like there were some pretty good announcements that came out of GDC this year.
Yeah.
For sure.
E3 that no one really cares about.
Yeah. On to the next little news bit. The Disney-Fox merger has finally happened.
It's over. Disney now owns Fox's properties. This includes The Simpsons. This includes the Aliens franchise. This includes basically anything that has had 20th Century Fox before it when you're watching.
The Simpsons, Family Guy.
Yeah, The
American
Simpsons,
Dad.
Family Guy. Actually, not American Dad, because that's
show.
owned by TBS.
A sub-branch.
Cleveland
Oh,
show?
is it?
It's a sub-branch.
Okay.
It's not one of the main properties, but it was partially involved with Fox.
Okay.
The Cleveland show?
They would own that.
Yes, because that was a spin-off of Family Guy.
They may not really care about it, and Fox sure didn't.
But all in all, Mickey Mouse got the final Infinity Stone, and now they own just about everything.
The only properties they do not own are Fox News and Sports. Apparently, they were not interested in buying Fox News. They were interested in sports, but the federal government ruled that if they owned that along with ESPN, it would count as a monopoly, so they were forced to withdraw.
Anti-monopoly laws.
Which are good.
Which are good. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
All in all, I think this is a really good thing. I mean, for one, this is going to expand opportunities in the MCU. We have Dark Phoenix coming up, and then right after that, we have no idea how the X-Men are going to be involved in Marvel. Hopefully, we'll see them interact with the Avengers, giving the event whatever happens after Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, I'm just a little curious on how they're going to run, how they're going to dip their toes into the waters of other properties they own. For example, Family Guy, and other shows like that, and Alien, Predators, products that have a lot more adult-oriented stuff. Seeing as Disney is more of a family-friendly company, I wonder what they're going to try and do.
Well, as far as I can tell, they also own the 20th Century Fox name, so they may just keep it as sort of a sub-banner. Like, there's Disney, but there's also Marvel, there's Lucasfilm, there's ABC.
Yeah,
they may also
true.
just add 20th Century Fox to that and maybe just keep Fox sort of the same way it is, just, with a Disney touch to it now.
Makes sense, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, yeah, we just want to let y'all know it's finally happened.
We've been covering it since the beginning, last year. I believe we talked about it in our first episode.
I believe so, yeah. It was when they had first mentioned it, but we weren't sure if it was when it was going to fully happen.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, you go ahead and take over the next little bit of news, another little bit regarding GDC.
Yeah, so at a GDC panel, Blizzard developers have claimed that Overwatch's toxicity is down by 40%, which is kind of a misleading way to phrase that because you can't really measure toxicity. I'm guessing they probably measured, complaints about toxicity,
I would assume so, yeah.
And they are attributing this to their introduction of the endorsement and LFG systems they've added. The endorsement allows players to sort of
reward you for being a good player.
Yeah, being a good team player, playing a character well, not being toxic. And the LFG system allows you to look for groups looking for your specific character or role or class or whatever you want. And they've also attributed this to a larger introduction of social norms to Overwatch. And they said that basically the reason toxicity can be such a problem in games is because, like the internet, there's not really an established social norm. Like in the outside world, in society, you walk up and start swearing at a person, that is wrong. That will get you in trouble.
Of course.
Online, what are the consequences? There are no social norms because there can't really be that serious of consequences. But in Overwatch, with the endorsement system and the banning system and the LFG system, they have introduced a norm of behavior, of good behavior, and thus bad behavior, and behavior in the middle. They have sort of put the building blocks of society down in Overwatch. And that is going to lead to good things. That's going to lead to, again, a 40% reduction in toxicity in a year. That's an amazing number.
Yep.
That is...
For those of you who don't really know what toxicity is, we're basically talking about, the people who would swear online during video games, who would trash talk people, who would yell at them for not doing the things that they necessarily want to do in video games.
Imagine the stereotypical 12-year-old in Call of Duty.
Basically,
that
yes.
archetype is the sort of poster child of toxicity.
I
Yes.
usually got that. Someone always
Yeah.
talk trash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've all had an experience
We've all
like that
had
because there's a reason it's such a stereotype. It's because it's there.
And
It's
I'd like to point out that Overwatch, at this moment, seems to be the best game right now that has been handling toxicity. I remember a while back, we talked about the comparison between Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege. And that was around the time that Overwatch had just introduced their endorsement system. And it seemed to have been doing really well. While Rainbow Six Siege was doing basically instant banning for like the slightest little hint of toxicity.
Yeah.
You know? And I was rooting for Overwatch because it seemed to be a really good method with the endorsement system. Don't punish people for being bad, even though you should punish people for being bad, you know? But focus on rewarding people for being good. And it seems to have been working, and I'm glad that it's finally working, you know?
And speaking of Rainbow Six Siege, I didn't actually put this in the script, but I just remember this. They have introduced a new anti-griefing system for team killers, where if you do too much damage to a team member, the bullets you fire start damaging you.
Ooh.
So I believe they call it the reverse friendly fire system. So if you try to commit friendly fire, and it's after a certain point, because sometimes, a teammate strafes in front of you as you're shooting.
The accidents happen.
Yeah, the accidents happen. But if there's like evidence that you are purposefully team killing, you start team killing yourself, which I find amusing.
I accidentally did that before.
Yeah.
It happens.
I was shooting an opponent, and then some dude just comes out of nowhere, and I accidentally shot him in the head.
Yeah, you got 10 identical people shooting at each other. Someone's going to get a little team shot.
Especially in games like Rainbow Six Siege, where everybody's, standard military attire and stuff like that. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
On to further news. Now, recently we talked about how a Star Wars TV series is going to be coming out called The Mandalorian.
Yep.
And there wasn't really too much information that was given regarding this show. But it has recently been announced that Taika Waititi, director of Thor Ragnarok and other amazing movies, will be voicing the droid IG-88 in the TV series. Now, if you don't know by any chance who IG-88 is, we absolutely don't blame you.
Especially now with the new Disney canon, it's even harder to understand who he is.
Yeah. Why don't we give a brief minute to explain who this bounty hunting droid is exactly?
Okay, so if you have seen the Star Wars movies, and that's it, IG-88 appeared in The Empire Strikes Back, when Darth Vader is walking by a line of bounty hunters before he stops at Boba Fett to hire him to, capture Han Solo, the entire thing. If you look closely, you will see in that lineup there is this spindly little droid with a sort of cylinder for a head with lights on it. That's IG-88. And that is his entirety of the involvement in the movie.
That's it.
That's all. Actually,
that's it.
that's not quite true. His head was a drinks dispenser in the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Yep. His head was originally a drink dispenser.
Yeah, because they had to reuse props.
Yeah. And he kind of has the same case as Boba Fett, where he didn't do anything at all, but he also just suddenly became a fan favorite, and he's just been widely expanded on.
Yeah, in the expanded universe, he was just this entire thing. He's this, emotionless bounty hunter that's brutal, kills a lot of people. He's, again, one of those characters that was basically nothing in the movies that became a central part of the expanded universe. And then, of course, Disney came along and invalidated all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really know where he stands right now in the Disney canon, but it looks like The Mandalorian is going to expand upon him, and probably he's going to be a much funnier character because it's Taika Waititi. He can't do...
He can do seriousness to an extent, but there's way too much humor layered on top of it.
Yeah, he's a funny guy, and trying to make him be anything less than that would be wasting the talent.
Yeah. And I'm just glad that IG-88's in there, because the other moment that I've really seen him was in Lego Star Wars, in Lego Star Wars 2. He was one of the bounty hunters that would, throw explosives and stuff,
He could access bounty hunter doors and droid doors. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. All right, go ahead and take on the next little subject.
So we've talked a lot about Anthem, whether it's good or bad, and that's not really what we're going to copy here. Anthem is apparently BioWare's second largest launch in the company's history, behind only Mass Effect 3, which, honestly, I don't think any game they make can beat Mass Effect 3 in terms of launch. That was just...
It was too amazing.
That was the biggest thing when it came out. Not just the biggest game, but the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
It has apparently made about $100 million in digital sales of the game. That's not counting, physical sales, as EA hasn't announced those numbers yet, and apparently made a further 3.5 million in microtransactions.
That's impressive.
That's a lot.
That
That's a lot of money.
microtransaction number is probably not what they want it to be. They probably want that to be a lot higher. Like, for instance, Apex Legends, in its first month, made around, I believe, $58 million in microtransactions. Well, of course, Apex Legends is a free-to-play game.
That also dropped out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, Anthem is, a full-price $60 game. But EA's probably not going to care about that. Their investors probably aren't going to care. They're going to look at, why is this game's microtransaction number so much lower than this game? They're not going to care about the, people already paid $60 for it. They're going to be inherently warier about paying for cosmetic-only items.
Right.
Especially since the system is actually fairly generous for earning the in-game currency that you can use to buy cosmetic items.
That's good. That's good. Now, I know, since you brought up Apex Legends, I wanted to ask you, Lucas, you got to see a little bit of Apex Legends recently, didn't you? Gage was playing it a little bit on his TV back at the house.
I think so.
Okay. Well, we both got to see a little bit of gameplay footage. It was like the first time ever that I actually got to see Apex Legends, like the actual gameplay and whatnot. And it seemed pretty good. It kind of reminded me a lot of Blackout mode from Black Ops 4.
Yeah, it is a bit like that. It's I'd say a bit more wacky because of inherently, but Blackout did go wackier with the Battle Royale than other games.
Right.
I'd say I'm conflicted because when I first started playing it, it was fun, but I first started playing it on launch day when no one knew what anything was. But now that, strategies have developed and characters have risen to the top and it's gotten a bit sweatier, it's a bit less fun to play, I'd say. I think it needs a bit of a shake-up, and they have sort of done that. They've introduced a new character.
Yeah, and there was recently a battle pass that came out for Apex.
The battle pass is nothing. It's a bunch of bad cosmetic items. It's clear they had no idea what to actually do with the battle pass. They just wanted a battle pass.
Fair enough. All right, on to the next little topic. Jordan Vogt Roberts? I always, that name.
It's a hard name.
He's directing an unnamed monster movie, and Michael B. Jordan will be producing.
Yeah, Jordan Vogt Roberts is the director of Kong Skull Island, and supposedly the director of the Metal Gear movie, though I doubt that's ever actually going to get made.
I don't think.
Gear? I think so.
You think Metal Gear Solid movie will come out?
Yeah.
It's hard because Konami obviously isn't interested in making it, and even if Jordan Vogt Roberts keeps talking about, how he keeps talking to Hideo Kojima about his ideas and how Kojima's so excited, Kojima has no control over the series anymore. I mean, he's a great game developer.
I wonder who'd play the role of Solid Snake.
Kurt Russell?
It would be a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, Snake was based off
Snake Plissken.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. But yeah, the fact that he's making an unnamed monster movie is exciting. Now, in case you guys aren't really entrenched in the whole monster movie thing, King Kong and Godzilla have had a very long history together, especially for their iconic movie where they fought each other. And Godzilla, King of the Monsters, recently going to be coming out, I believe, this year. Yeah, supposed to be supposed to be showing a lot of the classic monsters from the kaiju movies in history. And the only one that we haven't really heard about from those trailers themselves was King Kong himself.
Yeah, King Kong will not be appearing in the movie, but he will be appearing in a sequel, Kong vs. Godzilla. That's
right.
They're building up to an Avengers-style crossover. And Michael B. Jordan, just to make this perfectly clear, has not been announced to be starring in it. He is just producing it through his company, Outlier Society.
Yeah, and I'm curious as to what this monster movie is going to be about. I wonder if it's going to be tied into that universe or if it's going to be its own completely different thing.
I don't think it'll be tied in because after Kong Skull Island came out, Jordan Vogt Roberts kind of had a little freak out. Not like Josh Trank after Fan 4 Stick freak out, but still probably not going to be involved with the universe anymore, which is a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame, but I don't blame him, I suppose. Anyways, go ahead and take on this next little topic. Now, this is about a video game series we talked about a little bit in the past,
yes.
The Calling.
We talked about it last time there was drama with it. So Xaviant Games, Calling's developer, have announced that the Calling servers will be shutting down on May 15th. This is the end of an extremely long downhill slide for the Culling, following a bunch of patches, updates, tweets that sort of drove the community away and essentially killed the game. They then attempted to, instead of fixing their game, tried to release another full-price game called The Culling 2, which absolutely flopped. It, I believe at its peak, had 50 players at one time.
Well, yeah, it got to the point where like a lot of people just could not play the game because you could not fill the server up.
Yeah, people won in the loading screen because they were the only person match made into their match. So they just automatically won. And they eventually took Culling 2 off a sale and said they would be refocusing on the Culling. They would be transferring it to a free-to-play game supported by microtransactions called the Culling Origins. That was last September.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that has not worked out well because they've just said they're shutting down the game completely.
Yeah.
I believe you'll still be able to do local multiplayer matches. I think that's a thing in the game. I could be wrong. But the servers are going offline, which is essentially the death of the game.
It's kind of a shame. I think this is the first time that you and I have like fully covered a game leading all the way up to its eventual demise.
Yeah, we started covering when the Culling 2 launched, and it was a disaster. And we covered it when that died. I think that was actually in the next episode after it was...
It was.
Because it just died so quickly. We talked about it when the Culling Origins was announced, and we said we'd bring updates, and there really weren't any updates until this. It was just silent from September until now.
Mm-hmm. Man. But it's a shame, though.
Yeah.
It is a real shame.
It is.
It had potential. The first Culling was supposed to have been pretty good.
Yeah,
you know?
It was a Battle Royale game before PUBG and Fortnite. And of course, PUBG is what popularized it, and Fortnite became the billion-dollar-a-year juggernaut that launched, that basically is funding the Epic Games Store and all exclusives now.
Mm-hmm.
But the Culling was there from the beginning, and I'd say it's unfortunate, but it's sort of, the developers brought this on themselves.
Yeah. Anyways, on to the next topic. One that I'm very excited about, being the Persona fanatic that I am.
Yep.
Now, a few months ago, Atlus had teased Persona 5 R and said more details would be coming in March. People were massively excited. Persona 5 is a very smash hit game. It brought the Persona franchise back into popularity. And, you know, we were excited to find out a little bit more about it. Well, now we finally have more details. Persona 5 R is now Persona 5 The Royale. But unfortunately, that's all we've really gotten so far. But we have gotten a small cinematic trailer that also didn't really give too much information, though it is hinted that there will be a new character introduced within the franchise, which isn't the first time that the Persona series has done this. I used to have Persona 4 Golden for the PlayStation Vita, and that introduced a brand new character completely out of nowhere as well, whose entire backstory completely tied into the original game's storyline. You know? But we'll be getting more information in April, and I'm genuinely excited to find out about this, because I've been waiting for some more Persona 5 stuff to come out. We had gotten Persona 5 Dancing Star Night, which I was a little bit excited about, but I've already played a Persona dancing game, and after you played one, you kind of played them all.
Yeah.
You know, and there were talks about there possibly being a fighting game, like Persona 4 Arena, but we haven't gotten any confirmation on that yet.
Yeah, I think that eventually turned out to be, it was the Persona 3 or 4 characters that ended up in BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle.
And
yeah.
I like the series of Persona.
And that's good. Yeah, I still have Persona 4 for the PlayStation 2 at my home, the original soundtrack in it.
And I like the soundtracks.
Yeah, they had really good music. But yeah, well, if we find out anything more about it, we'll be sure to let you know, because I'm genuinely excited to find out what new elements are going to be added to this game, because Persona 5 already had way more things to do than its previous installments.
Yeah, I mean, the games were already being released in America, but Persona 5 was the one where they actually pushed for it to be, you know, part of the American consciousness. It was, before that, they were, you know, the sort of niche games that got translated over. They sold okay because of the anime fans.
It was a game series you didn't know about unless you saw a friend have a copy and you asked him what it was about, really. That's how I found out about it.
Yeah, and Persona 5 was the game. It was, you know...
It was out there, you know, and it's gotten a lot of popularity. The main character, Joker, is even going to be in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate eventually.
Yeah, I think that's coming out next month.
I can't wait for that. That's going to make me actually want to play it even more, you know, than usual. But, yeah, I'm excited. Very excited. Now, I'm going to pass the last little bit of news over to you, Brian, and then we'll finally jump into our trailers for the week.
Okay. So last year, Sony did not handle their typically annual PlayStation Expo. which led to wonders of what was going on. Did they just have nothing to talk about? That, happens sometimes. Sony's been known to not hold events because they don't have anything to talk about. But then they announced they'd be pulling out of E3 2019.
Such a shocker, seeing as Sony had some really good announcements in the previous E3.
In fact, it will be the first year Sony is not going to be there since the thing's inception.
I know, because, last year we got The Last of Us Part 2, a little bit extra detail. We got The Ghost of Tsushima. We got Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
We got another confusing trailer for Death Stranding, which...
The game...
But,
what were you going to say, dude?
The game that I really want it to come out is The Last of Us 2.
Oh, yeah.
I played the first one, and I seen the ending to that. It was great.
It's coming. We don't know when, but it's coming. But we also now know why they've been skipping that, because today Sony announced that they will be introducing the State of Play, a series of live streams that will have the company talking about their upcoming releases and ideas, similar to the Nintendo Direct.
That's exactly what I was thinking about too. Yeah, Nintendo Direct.
It's pretty much a Nintendo Direct. So it seems like, also like Nintendo, they will be issuing press conferences and big events to do live streams. Because that's probably a lot cheaper. E3 is so expensive for companies. They can foot it, but it's also very expensive. And it'll allow them to control their message a bit better.
Yeah. And I don't blame Sony at all for wanting to do a live stream to reveal their new games and let the developers talk about it, because it is cheaper and it allows them a lot more time to do what they want to do instead of having to work on a small little time schedule to let the other company come in and talk about it.
Yeah.
But, it's also a bit of a bummer. I really enjoyed PlayStation's live expos and them going on the stage talking about it and the little things they'd have. I remember last year at E3 they had one guy playing this really cool flute or whatever for
it was I don't remember the name, but it's it's a traditional Japanese instrument.
Yeah, the guy who had it was one of the few people in the world who could still play it.
And people got mad because he was a white guy, but they hired him because he's a master of this instrument.
Yeah, one of the few masters.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I enjoyed Sony's little press conferences. So while I am glad they're doing live streams, it's also, I guess it's a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, well, I think it could be good because E3, conferences are always a little bit stilted. Even Nintendo's were. But once they switched over to Directs, it became a more personal and a bit more charming of an experience. I really enjoy the Nintendo Directs because it feels like they're talking directly to you, not just announcing something to a crowd.
Yeah.
So hopefully if they can pull off the tone of it, it'll be good.
Yeah.
Also, one more thing that happened while we were off. EA has announced that they will also not be having a press conference at E3 2019.
What?
Yeah, so now out of the big five of, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, Ubisoft, and EA, only Microsoft and Ubisoft are now confirmed to have conferences.
No my god.
No way.
In fact, I think Microsoft is the only one that has confirmed they're doing a conference. I don't know if EA has said anything one way or the other.
Well, props to Microsoft, I suppose.
Because it's never been something they have to confirm or deny. It's always just been, it's E3.
They're
These companies will be having conferences. We do know Bethesda has confirmed they'll have a conference, which...
We're not really, excited about, given 76 and everything.
Yeah, that's...
The only thing I'd be looking forward to, honestly, is the new Elder Scrolls, if they do talk about it.
They probably won't say anything about it other than it's still in development. We'll probably get to see something at Starfield, because from what we can tell, that's their next big thing.
Right.
On their checklist.
Honestly, I say good riddance to EA. Their press conferences have always been these overly marketed, just... They're investor calls on a stage. They were never meant for the fans of video games. They were meant to announce the new money makers to their investors. Because last year, what did we get?
Last year with EA, the two main things I remember them talking about was Anthem, and then they talked a lot about Battlefront 2, and a lot of new installments coming with it.
Yeah, basically it was Anthem, which we didn't actually see much gameplay of. We instead got developers sitting on stage in front of concept art talking about it. We didn't even get that much gameplay from it. We got Battlefront 2, which had the tone of very much, we're very sorry, we're not actually sorry, but here's a bunch of content that's coming. We haven't abandoned this game because we can't yet, because we can still get microtransactions out of you.
Right.
And then, of course, there was Command & Conquer Rivals.
Oh,
the game, no one
forgot.
knew what it was during the announcement, because they did it with this entire esports-style tournament, and then after that was done and everyone was so thoroughly bored and confused, I got up and walked away to get something to eat during it.
Oh my god. Yeah, I remember that. They did when it comes to like live plays and you try and get people hyped, you just can't pull it off with mobile devices.
Yeah, and then they confirmed that this, seminal turn-based strategy PC game is now going to be a mobile cash cow.
Yeah.
Oh.
That sucks.
So good riddance to EA.
Good riddance
be gone
to
with
EA.
them.
Yeah. Well, that about did it for our weekly recap, ladies and gentlemen. If there were any news bits that we didn't happen to mention, or if there's anything from the previous weeks that you wanted us to talk about, be sure to let us know, and we'll get on to that on the next episode.
Yeah.
Now, without further ado, it's time for us to get into trailer talk.
Yay!
Now, in trailer talk, we talk about some of the latest trailers to have dropped within the week and give a general opinion on it. Whether it looks interesting, whether you should go see it or not, things like that. And the first trailer, one that we're pretty excited about, granted, is the third season to Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yes.
Starring Winona Ryder, David Harbour, Millie Bobby Brown. It is releasing July 4th of this year, Independence Day. And, okay, for the life of me, I could not find a synopsis for this. I have not been able to find any synopsis or plot details that Nintendo has released on this. But there's some stuff we can
Did you
gather
say Nintendo?
Oh my god.
We mean Netflix. We mean Netflix. From the trailer, we do admit we can't really explain what's going to happen.
Some
just
messed
yet.
up stuff is what's going to happen.
Some messed up stuff. The cast has grown up. They've given implications that, everybody's kind of moving on, doing new things with their life because everybody's growing up and whatnot. While some things are kind of starting to happen in the background. We see a hitman kind of going through a hall of mirrors trying to find somebody.
I believe he's played by Dolph Lundgren.
I think so. We see one person in the shower who seems to be starting to go through some sort of mutation in their arm. And at the very end of the trailer, we actually get to see what that mutation looks like.
I'm actually not sure if it's the same guy.
We do see some creature thing.
Yeah, something forms in the hallway of it looks like a school. It looks like an angry pile of flesh in the shape of a bear.
It reminds me of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yes.
That's what it reminds me of.
It's much less defined than the Demogorgon. It does just look like a pile of blood and flesh with teeth.
Yeah, you see like a human face at the end of it, but the rest of it you can't really make anything out of it.
You guys were talking about a creature, right?
Yeah.
That creature reminds me of that movie, can't remember, but it's a bunch of military soldiers fighting the Nazis and they have experience.
You mean Overlord?
Yeah, Overlord.
Yeah, that is true. Overlord did kind of have those sort of similar elements. But what I can say is that it looks exciting.
One of the big plot developments is that a mall has opened in Hawkins, Indiana, which is probably going to play some sort of big role in the Upside Down because sort of inverted locations have a big impact there.
Yeah, and also with Stranger Things, when a new location is introduced, something weird always happens there. In the first season, we had the Hawkins Electric Power Plant, which is where the Upside Down was introduced. Season 2 was when we got the big old pumpkin patch, which is where the creature was starting to develop underground. And now we get to see a big old giant mall in the third season, which was introduced in previous teasers, which can only lead us to assume that something's going to happen there. One thing that I can say is that even though they confirmed they're going to be doing a whole bunch of seasons for Stranger Things, this third season really makes it seem like things are like wrapping up, I mean, even though it might keep going on, it's just I could not help but feel like things are starting to end.
I'd say I'd compare the first two seasons of Stranger Things to A New Hope. They introduced the characters, they fought a big villain, but there's still the even bigger threat out there. I think this is going to be the empire of Stranger Things, essentially. Is we're going to get introduced to the bigger villain, what they want, and we're going to sort of get the seed set up for how they're going to defeat it.
That would be interesting. Especially considering the fact there's so many things that we don't know. Supposedly there's like a complete detailed explanation of the Upside Down that we haven't even been given yet.
Yeah, they have the entire Upside Down apparently mapped out physically, like what it looks like, what it is, why it's there, the entire history of it. We just don't know it yet.
Yeah. Now, Lucas, you got to see the first season of Stranger Things. I had gotten it on DVD a while back. What were your thoughts on it?
It was good.
Yeah? What was your favorite part?
It was when they find the 11.
When they find 11 for the first time?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, it was a pretty good scene, I do admit. Alright, on to the next little trailer. Now, again, we usually mention that we don't often talk about second trailers.
I think we need to amend that. We talk about second trailers all the time. We just don't talk about second trailers when they don't interest us. If they do interest us, we talk about when it interests us. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, we usually talk about second trailers when either there is some new little bit of story introduced that wasn't explained in the past, or if there's something interesting just with the trailer itself. And this is an example of the latter with John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum Trailer 2. Its U.S. release date is May 17th, 2019, starring Keanu Reeves, Halle Berry, Jason Mantzoukas, and others. Synopsis, of course, is that super assassin John Wick, played by Keanu Reeves, is on the run after killing a member of the International Assassins Guild. And with a $14 million price tag on his head after being claimed excommunicado, he is the target of hitmen and women everywhere, and it's directed by Chad Stahelski. Now, the trailer did get to... It didn't necessarily explain anything extra, though we did get to see some new assassins being introduced, people who know John Wick personally. In fact, Halle Berry's character apparently has some sort of history with John Wick, and after she helps him out, she tells him, after this, we are more than even.
Less than even. Very specifically.
Very less than even.
So I'm guessing that whatever John did to her, he did something bad to her, but she still owes him a debt.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was excited about this, not just because of the trailer, but because of what the text gives us at the end. At the very end of the trailer, it tells us, text John Wick to 91099 for a 1 hour head start. Now, of course, I was very curious about this because it ain't very often you get to see things like that in a trailer. So I texted it. So far, we haven't really gotten any information except for a text that I received immediately after texting it, which said this: Welcome. As an esteemed member, you will be granted access to our finest amenities. We will text you at this number in the days to come. Be prepared. Which clearly means that John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum is going to have some sort of text marketing campaign.
Yeah, maybe an ARG. And it appears that as part of this game, whatever it is, we are playing as a member of the Continental Hotel and Network.
Yeah, you know, which is just interesting because I always enjoy a good trailer that introduces like an ARG for people to interact with leading up to the movie. The last one that I had done before this, movie related or anything, was when Godzilla King of the Monsters was released, and we were told to check out the Monarch website, which would show a global GPS tracker on the monsters located in the world and how Godzilla was always on the move.
Yeah, it was mainly used as the Godzilla tracker's mostly offline most of the time. It's only been online to show him heading to San Diego for the release of the San Diego Comic-Con trailer and Tokyo for the release of the Tokyo Comic-Con trailer. But otherwise, it's it's got bits of backstory on some of the monsters, like how ancient cultures viewed them, what exactly their powers are.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's cool. I can't wait to get the next text and find out what this is gonna be about. You know? It looks really interesting. The next trailer, one that I'm kind of excited about, is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is the first trailer. The release date is July 26th, 2019, starring Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Leonardo DiCaprio, Luke Perry, and many others. A synopsis is that a faded TV actor and his stunt double strive to achieve fame and success in the film industry during the final years of Hollywood's golden age in 1969 Los Angeles. This is directed by Quentin Tarantino, and it should be emphasized that this is his 9th film. Normally we don't have to point that out.
Yeah, but Quentin Tarantino throughout his career has made a big deal about how he would only ever make 8 films. And he made such a big deal about it that it sort of became, a fun countdown of films. And then he made his 8th film in, what was it, The
Magnificent Seven, I believe it was.
No, it was the Hateful
Eight.
Yes,
Hateful Eight.
Which was sort of a parody of Magnificent... Yeah. And then he just announced, hey, I'm making a 9th movie. No need to make a big deal about it. And now we're making a big deal about it because he made such a big deal about how he was only going to make 8.
Right. Now, from the trailer, from what we saw, it's typical Quentin Tarantino film. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. You expect the kind of dialogue you would get in that film. You know, the same cinematography and everything. But I was excited about it because this kind of marks the first time that Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are in the exact same scene together. They have been in films before. They've both been on casting lists in films before, but they had never shared a scene together.
Which amazed me when I first heard about it, because Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are just in everything.
Everything.
You'd assume they would have appeared in a scene together before.
Yeah, so this is like the first time we actually see Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio give like witty back and forth banter to each other, and I love it. The chemistry between these two is just amazing. I can't wait for it to come out.
Now, I noticed that there didn't seem to be a lot of violence in the trailer. There was some violence because it was on the TV show that Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are on.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a ton of, Tarantino-esque, hyper-violence, which even for trailers would be edited, but it'd still be there because it's such a hallmark of his directing style.
Well, for all we know, this could be from... After all, this is the first trailer. I believe Margot Robbie's character was supposed to be Sharon Tate. She was an actress that was somewhat involved in the whole Manson situation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we didn't really get to see any of Margot Robbie's character. Really, we didn't see any dialogue. We saw her dancing, but that was just about it. But the Mansons are supposed to be involved somewhat in this film.
Okay, well that changes it. Okay.
Yeah, we just haven't gotten any of it yet. So far, we got to see the main character and his stunt double. We got to see somebody who I assume is playing as Bruce Lee in this movie. Mm-hmm. And I do love his character as well, and we did see a little bit of fighting from there. But for the most part, it seems like the first trailer is introducing us to the world. The setting, where we're taking place at, and the main characters. And that's usually how it is for movies like this. When they're like Tarantino-esque films, the first trailer always just kind of jumps us into the world and see the main character. And then after that, we start to see more and more of the story.
Yeah, and I'm not a Tarantino fan. I've never really liked any of his films, but this one is interesting.
It is. It's interesting for sure. The next trailer, one that's I'm excited for, honestly. I had my doubts on it when it first came out because I was like really upset that it is being made. But the new trailer dropped for Toy Story 4. The only reason why I was upset about it was because, in my opinion, the third movie kind of wrapped things up well enough, So I was surprised that they kept going. The U.S. release date is July 26, 2019. No, it's June 21st, 2019. Starring Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Patricia Arquette, and many others. And it's directed by Josh Cooley. Now, I didn't have a synopsis jotted down here because on the YouTube channel that I get these synopsises from, it wrapped it up to just being Buzz and Woody trying to find Bo Peep. And there is much more to the story than just that.
Yeah, it's... So, from what I can tell, I've only seen the trailer once. It is essentially Buzz and Woody, they're still with Bonnie from the end of Toy Story 3, who has created a new friend who is a spork with eyes with pipe cleaners called Sporky?
Yeah.
Is that it? Who has become sentient because he's a toy and does not want to be a toy. He wants to be a spork used for eating soups and salads. And this entire trailer has this theme of what is a toy and what is their purpose, which is surprisingly deep.
Very deep.
Because you look at these things and there are people online that go, oh, how does this work? How does that work? What are the mechanics of this world? And you look at it and go, it's an animated kids movie. You don't need to get this deep into this. But now the movie itself seems to be getting this deep into it. Because it seems Sporky has an identity, has a sense of consciousness that he had as a spork. And now that he's a toy, he knows that he's not supposed to be a toy. He knows his purpose as a spork, what a spork does. He's not just born in this world with nothing. He knows what he's supposed to be, and he is not happy with what he is. And it brings the question, if you take the eyes and the pipe cleaner off him, would he go back to being an inanimate spork? Would he still have consciousness? Mm-hmm. Would that kill him? Or if he had memories of a spork beforehand, afterwards, would he still be alive? Mm-hmm. What is happening? You go on with the trailer, because I've gotten wrapped up in my head. I'm going to sit over here.
Well, yeah, anyways, our character Sporky escapes from Bonnie's house, and Woody tries to go after him to find him, and he and Sporky end up kind of lost. They eventually end up by this antique shop where Woody happens to see Bo Peep, and they go in there and they're kind of trapped at this antique shop. But Bo Peep kind of saves them, but they're still in there, I assume. But he interacts with her a little bit. There's also apparently a carnival nearby or something. They eventually end up at a carnival. And it's the usual Toy Story plot. While Woody's gone, Buzz and everybody else go looking for him. We've had this story given before in Toy Story 2 and everything. But all in all, this looks like a really good movie. It's as stated before, this is way deeper than the other Toy Story movies that we had gotten before. The closest thing we'd gotten beforehand was Toy Story 3 because of its near ending, which almost insinuated that all the toys were going to be killed, which was very, very dark for a Disney film. But this movie looks really good. It looks good. It looks very heartwarming, you know? The tone's different. Because with the other Toy Story movies, it was just, oh, hey, we need to get back to our owner. There wasn't really much detail behind it. It's just we need to get back to Andy no matter what.
They really don't have a lot of plot variety, I'm realizing now.
Well, I mean, what can you really do? Toy Story 4 seems to be its attempt to give more to it than just, we need to go back to our owner Andy, you know?
And they do seem to give Woody more of an arc than he's had in past movies, in that he, starts out as the toy that's trying to get Sporky back, because toys have the purpose of making their owners happy. But when he gets to this carnival area, you see that he may, be having a change of heart, that he may have found something better, which is interesting for Woody, who's always been sort of the hardliner, this is what toys are. And it's been presented as, a good thing in past movies, but maybe they're going to question that.
Yeah. And it looks good, I'm excited for, more details on this.
Toy Story.
Yeah. Now, the last trailer that we have to talk about is the live-action remake to Aladdin. First trailer. Its U.S. release date is May 24th, 2019, starring Billy Magnussen, Will Smith, Naomi Scott,
and Mina Musad. Billy Magnussen, we need to look at whatever site you're getting trailers from.
I've been getting it from Movie Clips trailers on YouTube, but I do admit I'm going to try and find a different channel, because when it comes to their starring list, they always pick, they seem to have, a preferred actors that they want to put at the very beginning of their starring list. Sometimes it's before the main actors that you're even really looking for.
Yeah, Billy Magnussen plays some random white guy in the movie, while Mina Musad plays Aladdin, who is not listed in their actors.
It's weird.
Yeah,
same thing happened to me with the Joker trailer that dropped. They put Zazie Beetz as the very beginning before Joaquin Phoenix,
which is odd. I mean, Zazie Beetz is apparently going to be a main character in it, but still, Joaquin Phoenix is going to be
he is the Joker. Yeah,
Billy Magnussen just some random white character that's apparently he's like an original creation for what seems to be a shot-for-shot remake movie, so he's not going to be that big.
Yeah. But anyways, the synopsis is exactly what you would expect. It's a live-action retelling of the 1992 Disney film Aladdin, and it's directed by Guy Ritchie.
Really not breaking the bank on ink there, are they?
Yeah. Now, it looks good. I had my doubts, especially because everybody has their gripe with Will Smith being Genie. Now, I'd like to point out, you can't really hate on Will Smith too much for this, because who out there, in all honesty, who out there really can one-up Robin Williams with Genie?
Absolutely no one.
Absolutely no one. That was his role. That was his best. I won't say it's his best, but that was one of his iconic roles in film general was Genie.
Yeah.
So to hate on Will Smith for not being exactly like Robin Williams is kind of messed up, in my opinion. But anyways, we got to see Aladdin do some parkour, just like how in the original classic film, Aladdin's running around on rooftops, swinging off of curtains and rugs, escaping the guards and stuff. We see him interact with Jasmine. We get to see them do their magic carpet ride, singing A Whole New World. And we get to see Will Smith's Genie. And quite honestly, I like his Genie.
Yeah, his Genie is definitely different from Robin Williams. It's very much... Robin Williams' Genie was so much Robin Williams. This one is going to be very much inspired by Will Smith and who he is. It's got sort of the more affable charm than the, sort of manic humor and charm.
Yeah, crazy, kooky stuff.
I could see that.
Yeah.
And it seems like they may have changed the sort of musical style of Never Had a Friend Like Me to match Will Smith a bit more.
Makes sense, seeing as he did used to be a musician back in the day, It's only fair that he'd want to do his own version of Friend Like Me. And we got to see Jafar, we got to see his parrot and everything, and it looks good.
Yeah. It's very much you see a lot of films that you could probably match up shot for shot with the movie. They have changed a few things, like they seem to have gotten rid of Jafar's old man disguise, which honestly never really made sense in the first place. It was just an extra step he seemed to add to make things more complicated. It seems like they are sort of decomplicating some of the bits of the plot. Like Jafar, it seems, instead of dressing up as an old man and helping Aladdin break out of prison, he's probably just going to use his power and authority to get Aladdin out of prison to do this thing for him.
Right. And, generally, I have problems with shot-for-shot remakes. You know, I remember a while back they did a shot-for-shot remake of the movie Psycho.
Oh, yeah, with Vince Vaughn, wasn't it?
Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates.
That was an interesting choice.
It could have been good if they didn't try so hard to make everything shot for shot for shot. You know, if they had rebooted it a little bit, tweaked a few things, probably could have been good. But the fact that they were trying to get so close to the original material, it just didn't work out.
And they have a few new shots. They've reworked some shots with Will Smith's genie because, again, different character.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also one scene of a giant Iago chasing Aladdin.
Right, and that was not that hadn't been done in really any of the Aladdin films that had come out.
Also, you don't hear him in the trailer, but apparently Iago is going to be voiced by Alan Tudyk, which will make it the second time he's voiced a bird in a Disney movie. Interesting.
But yeah, though, that about does it for trailer talk, ladies and gentlemen. If you watch any of these trailers, we'd love to hear your opinions on it. What do you think about these trailers and whatnot? Be sure to leave a comment on the video, and we'd be happy to hear from you. Now, without further ado, it's time to enter our discussions. Now, we have only one discussion topic for today, but it is an interesting one for sure. We're going to be talking a little bit about the strategy that Epic Games new video game store is doing to try and compete against the giant that is Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and take it away, man.
Okay, so earlier we talked about how at GDC it was announced that Control, Outer Worlds, I kept trying to say Outer Limits, Outer Worlds, Control, and many other new games are going to be exclusive to the Epic Games Store. And this has actually caused some controversy. With Outer Worlds, less so, but recently it was announced that Phoenix Point, the XCOM-style game from the creator of XCOM that was crowdfunded through Fig, would now be skipping the Steam release that it marketed during its crowdfunding campaign and marketed its game on the fact that it would be on Steam. It is now going to be an Epic Games exclusive. And the developers tried to paint this as, oh, well, it's, you know, you're going to get a code anyway, and if you don't like it, we can, you know, give you a refund, and if you keep it, you'll get a free DLC, while everyone else will have to pay for it, and it's going to be on Steam in a year anyway, so why bother?
Now, you see, this is a bummer, because they recently did this, the last time we talked about Epic doing something like this is with Metro Exodus. And it's, you know, at the last second, they switched over to Epic Games Store, even though they'd been selling pre-orders for the game on Steam. Now, those were honored because, you know, people bought the game there. You don't just have to say, yeah, we decided to go sell it somewhere else, so... You don't have it.
And Epic has tried to paint this as a good thing. At GDC, they said that Exodus had sold 2.5 times the amount of Metro Last Light, which it sounds impressive, but it's a bigger sequel to the game, so it makes sense it sell more. Also, the PC gaming space has changed since then, so it makes sense that it sell more. That's sort of a disingenuous comparison to make. Yeah, the sequel to this thing did better than the original thing. That's how it's supposed to work.
Mm-hmm.
But what this all boils down to is Epic is lacking in features. They are lacking in a lot of the quality of life features that make Steam great.
Yeah, aren't they lacking in, like, user review capabilities?
I think they have user reviews, but they don't have forums.
Okay.
They don't have friends lists of their own. They have to, like, import them from Steam.
Yeah.
Which has gotten them into some trouble already. They don't have a great refund policy that may actually violate the GDPR, the European Union's consumer protection bill. And it seems like Epic knows that they can't build up a superior, you know, store to Steam as quickly as they want to. So instead of enticing people with the carrot and, you know, drawing them to your store naturally through it being better, they are beating people with the stick by buying up the exclusivity to these big games, sometimes in the 11th hour, to force people onto their service.
Bums me out, man.
It's a huge bummer.
Yeah, it seems like instead of trying to entice people into wanting to go to their website, they're kind of just having their arms tied. It's like you have no choice but to come over to our game, and also thank you for choosing our services.
Yeah, and I have such complicated feelings about this, because the overall strategy I heavily disagree with, but they're also trying to make themselves better than Steam, and like at GDC they announced they wouldn't allow bloatware games or porn games on their service. They'd be actually moderating, as opposed to Steam, which has gotten in trouble even recently for allowing horrible games on their service with no moderation, because they want it to be an open marketplace. And that has been the reason why Steam is looked down upon and why people are welcoming the Epic Games Store. And I absolutely want competition. I want Epic to be good. I just don't want them to do it the way they currently are. I want them to bring people in, not drag them along.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, in my genuine opinion, I think that Epic and Steam should just coexist, you know? Because I mean, some people don't like Steam, given the content that it's released. But at the same time, Steam has difficulties doing that, seeing as they are the company that wants to guarantee that people can put up the games that they want to put up. While Epic is supposed to be the website that is against that. They want to make sure it has good quality content that everybody all on the table would be good with. The developers get a bit more profit from putting their games on there, I believe, yes?
Yeah, as opposed to 70% from Steam, they get 88%. That's almost another 20% of profit, which is great for devs.
Great for devs.
And I love that policy. I think it's great.
So at the Epic Store's website, it has the potential for greatness, you know? But with great power comes great responsibility. I can't believe I threw a Spider-Man quote into this whole scenario, but that is exactly what the case is. They have the potential to be really great, but they're using that whole fact as an excuse to drag people into their website.
Yeah, this is a weird story where there's not really a good guy. You've got the Epic Game Store that's putting on a better curated service in a really bad way. And then you've got Steam, which has absolutely no standards. And there was actually a time so long ago, it feels like, where Steam was actually accused of being too heavily moderated and they wouldn't let indie games on their platform. And then that opened the floodgates. There's GOG Gaming, which is fine. It's DRM free, which is great, but its marketing team really needs a refresh. And then there's Humble. Nothing's wrong with Humble. Go buy from Humble. They give money.
Humble's great.
They give so much of their profits to charity. They just... Go buy from Humble.
Yeah, we're not sponsoring or anything, but we're just, Humble's a decent enough place to go.
They're typically cheaper. You can choose where the money goes in a lot of cases, and they have the bundles where you can pay what you want. Humble is it's honestly just a better service.
Yeah. So, with Epic, I mean, they could still fix this. If they just find a better way to bring in their audience, instead of just ripping games away from people and putting on their website, why can't they just find some people who just genuinely want to have an exclusive, Or why can't Epic just make some of their own exclusives?
And I mean, I'd get if these were indie studios, I could kind of get the Phoenix Point people because this is their first game and they kickstarted their game. I can get them wanting, the exclusivity money because, Epic is just paying for this. But then there are developers like Metro who are published by THQ Nordic, these massive publishing houses where they don't need this money. They're just doing this because they want more money.
Right.
And they're doing it to the detriment of their fans. I'd get indie studios doing this. I'd get that because the profit margins are very thin. Sometimes there is no profit because it's their first
when you're
game.
an indie company, you need all the profit that you can get in order to survive. Nowadays.
Yeah, but this is unexcusable from people like, again,
Nordic.
Metro Exodus, and I'd say even Obsidian. Though they are a bit more, they're in a complicated.
They're starting to kind of go into obscurity. I think Obsidian is.
Well, they were recently bought by Microsoft, but this game isn't owned by Microsoft because it was in development before the buyout. It's an entire thing that would take 10 minutes for me to jump out. But anyway, I think that there is a place for what Epic is doing, but they're doing it badly, heavy-handedly, and to the detriment of consumers.
Yeah, it's a shame. But I mean, we had to talk about it for a bit, just to point it out to ladies and gentlemen, in case you've heard a little bit of the controversy surrounding around the Epic Games Store and its recent exclusives. With that being said, though, however, we have reached the end of today's episode. As always, my name is Ed Heitman. Joining me in the studio today is my good friend and co-host Brian Rodriguez.
Goodbye.
And I'd also like to thank our guest, my little brother Lucas, for being in the studio today for today's show.
Peace.
Now, as always, be sure to tune in Saturdays from 1 to 2, where we talk about everything pop culture related. From movies to TV shows to video games to comic books, you name it, we do our best to cover it. Is there something you want us to talk about? Please let us know. We'd be glad to cover it on next week's show. With that being said, however, have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.
Made an angry score.